folks, Johnny Cashflow here, and we've all watched all these anti-social justice warrior videos. We watch as professors are challenged or berated. We've watched as professors on universities go out and they protest with their students. We've seen professors who are berated by students for the sake of social justice. And we watch as these things happen, and for the most part, I believe most of us see it as something that's happening almost like a war over there. You know, it's something that happens over there, somewhere else, across the pond, on the other side of the world. These are things that we would want to speak out against. These are things that we are against overall, and we think that it's wrong when it happens, but it's always happening to somebody else. Well, this past couple weeks, it's actually happened to an individual whom I've met. So today I'm going to discuss some things that you may have seen in the newspaper and discuss what social justice warriors look like in the administration of your campus. So let's get into it. On October 10th, Robbie Soave of Reason.com posted an article titled UVA Professor Agrees to Leave of Absence After Criticizing Black Lives Matter. In that article, he basically quotes Doug Muir, who is the owner of Bella's, which is a restaurant here in Charlottesville, who wrote in response to a leader of the Black Lives Matter coming to Charlottesville and giving a speech. He wrote on a Facebook page, Black Lives Matter is the biggest racist organization since the Klan. Are you kidding me? Disgusting. So in response, somebody reports him, and he goes on to be basically forced to go on leave. Okay, so he gets forced to take a leave of absence. Then the college comes out in support of Black Lives Matter, saying that we're not going to stand for racists, right? As if criticizing an organization is racist. You know, somehow along the way, the mere institution of Black Lives Matter has become synonymous with black people. And that's not by accident. That is completely by design, so that you can't criticize an organization because it's seen as representing all of an entire race. So, think about this. Think about if you couldn't criticize the Catholic Church because it represented all white people, all right? And people would still do it, right? But imagine if it had the same connotation. Imagine if you couldn't criticize, the KKK, because that's exactly what he's saying, is that they are just as violent, and we haven't seen this kind of racist rhetoric since the KKK. That's what he's arguing. And instead of people saying, well, I disagree with your opinion, and here's why, list of items, list of coherent, substantive responses, instead, they report him to the school, and the school suspends him or forces him to go on leave. Then they come back and they rake him through the coals. So later on he comes back and he issues a statement, quote, I was wrong in my comparison and want to offer my profound apologies for my words. Muir said, according to the paper, this is in the Washington Post, to my students, the University of Virginia, the citizens of Charlottesville, and the thousands of responders, I am truly sorry. I have been saddened by the pain it has caused this wonderful community. Fuck that. Fuck that. Okay? You know, and I know, that he was taken into an office and shamed for having an opinion that did not go along with the narrative. We all know this. Right? He didn't sit here and say, oh, well, somebody brought up some cogent points and therefore my opinion has been changed. No. His career was threatened by the school who wanted to virtue signal to everybody else. The vice mayor, Wes Bellamy, which by the way is a complete leftist social justice warrior, took to the media and to criticize him for his comments, quote, the notion that hashtag Black Lives Matter can be compared to the Ku Klux Klan is not only incredibly misguided, but goes to show the lack of cultural awareness that still plagues many professors at our universities across the country. So let's think about that, right? Because I've seen where Black Lives Matter are advocating for police to be murdered, where they're chanting pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. We have videos of Black Lives Matter chanting, seeing a white person and yelling, he's white, beat his ass. Where they're saying on the video, they're killing all the white people out here. I hope you're not white coming down here because we're gonna kill you. And to just say that that's wrong is now somehow racist. It's now considered racist to say that targeted violence against police officers and targeted violence against a particular race, that ideology is wrong, is now in some fucked up mental social justice mind game now considered racist. The article also goes on to say that Bellamy went on to say that the Black Lives Matter movement is not a terrorist organization, but rather a group that aims to address systematic oppression and racism. Really? Really? Chanting, what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now? That's addressing systematic oppression and racism? Really? Advocating the genocide of anybody who's white, like they did in a debate at Harvard. At Harvard, folks. There are black students at Harvard, going to Harvard, who are advocating for the genocide of white people. Can you imagine? Just think about this. Okay, think about it critically, okay? Can you imagine if the roles were reversed? See, because social justice warriors want to tell you that they can't be racist. Black people can't be racist. Minorities can't be racist because of this made-up math equation that, they took somehow in a liberal arts degree of power plus privilege divided by number of kids equals racism or something, right? Which is all bullshit, okay? You know how you could tell if something is racist? Flip it. Especially in today's day and age. Flip it, okay? If white people at Harvard were debating and advocating for the genocide of black people, would you think that that's racist? If your answer is yes, then guess what? Then it's racist for a black person to advocate for the genocide of white people. It's the same thing. Racist is racist. Racism is racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. It's just racism. There's no reverse part about it. That's the changing of the language that I speak about in all my other videos. They want to change the language to fit their narrative. There's no reverse of it, right? The only thing that I would consider to be reverse racism is if you're a white person and you hate other white people. If you're a black person who hates other black people. I would argue that would be the only form of reverse racism. If a black person hates white people based solely on the color of their skin, then that is racist. Similarly, think about all of the professors who have advocated for Black Lives Matter. So if you could advocate for Black Lives Matter, and that is encouraged and supported by a university, then why the hell are you not allowed to advocate against it? Imagine if a riot of white people was occurring where they were going and smashing private property and targeting black people, and there's video confirmation showing them yelling, he's black, fucking kill him. Would you say that's racist? I would. See, that's the difference. That's how I know that I'm right. It's because my viewpoints don't change. My argument stays exactly the same. The people who are wrong are the ones who have to make excuses and change the language to fit their narrative. Okay, the people who are wrong and how you know that they're wrong are the ones who will say, yes, it's racist for white people to target black people to attack them and try and murder them, but somehow it's not racist for black people to target white people and try and murder them. Okay, that's how you know that they're wrong and I'm right. My argument is consistent, stays the same. Okay, so same exact thing with Douglas Muir, okay, adjunct professor at UVA. I think it's perfectly fine for a professor to go on Facebook and proclaim how great Black Lives Matter is. I'll debate them on that, and I will absolutely go toe-to-toe with them in a debate and explain to them why they're wrong. And though they may not necessarily agree with me, maybe I'll be able to convince other people who are watching, who have a little bit more objective of an opinion, to see my points and then make a sound decision based off of that, okay? But then I also believe that anybody who disagrees with Black Lives Matter should also be able to post a disagreement and post their opinions, especially on their personal Facebook page. This is the destruction of free speech that everyone's talking about. This is the destruction of free speech that Milo Yiannopoulos talks about, that I'm talking about, that all the other anti-social justice warriors are talking about. This happens everywhere. It's happening on universities everywhere. You don't think it's not happening in your university? I'd like for you to prove that. Good luck. Good luck. Because here I am at the University of Virginia, founded by Thomas Jefferson himself, ran by people who pretend to have Jeffersonian principles, and here they are actively silencing professors with wrong think. So the article in the Washington Post, I mean, it's got such a bias. It's covering how great Black Lives Matter is. The lead picture doesn't have anything about Douglas Muir and, the fact that he's a business owner in the local area who creates jobs or anything like that. Oh, no. What do they have? They have a picture of 4 guys holding a sign that says Black Lives Matter in Washington, D.C. from January, assuming of this year. So almost a year ago, in a completely different town. Like you're not even, I guess you're not supposed to notice that, this event happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, and they're showing pictures of from 9 months ago in Washington, D.C., over 2 hours drive away. And you're supposed to think you're just supposed to connect the two or something. They briefly mention Bella's restaurant, his restaurant, which he owns. Then they go on to talk about Alicia Garza, who spoke at the Paramount Theater, and quote her, which Muir's comments were in response to. The article states that a Charlottesville resident later took a screenshot of Muir's comments and alerted university officials through social media. He alerted them, folks. Alerted them. Because they needed to be alerted to this kind of unacceptable. It is unacceptable, this is his quote, unacceptable for one of your lecturers to be comparing hashtag Black Lives Matter to the Klan. Really? Is it really unacceptable? I don't think so. I think it's pretty justified. Then, of course, University of Virginia spokespeople have to virtue signal. Tom Katasoulias, Executive Vice President and Provost, put out a statement saying that he's disturbed and saddened by the comments. Not an argument. Try putting forth an argument as to why he's wrong. Goes on to say, the University of Virginia stands firmly against racism and social injustice of any kind. Really? Social injustice? Like threatening a person's career over his personal opinion? Oppressing his personal opinion? Preventing him from having any opinion that goes against your narrative? Like that kind of social injustice? I love how racism keeps getting thrown in here every step along the way. If you disagree with Black Lives Matter, you're a fucking racist. If you think that chanting, what do we want? Dead cops, when do we want it? Now, is wrong and has been responsible for the murdering of police officers across our nation at record pace, then you're a racist. If you think that it's wrong to highlight somebody that has a different color skin of you and say, he's white, beat his ass, they're killing all the white people out here. If you're white, don't come down here because we're going to kill you. If you think that's wrong, then you're racist. You're racist, folks. That's the language that they use to silence you, to silence any kind of dissenting opinion. And here's one of the kickers, one of the things that is just so intellectually dishonest, is that Katasoulias goes on to say, quote, statements such as Mr. Muir's do not foster intellectual exploration, nor do they encourage the voices of others. Talk about being completely self-unaware. Like, holy shit. If you have an opposing opinion, then you're not fostering intellectual exploration. You can only think like us, and therefore foster intellectual exploration, folks. Okay? Only thinking like the group can you foster intellectual exploration. Only thinking like the group and only thinking like us can you encourage voices of others. Okay, if you have any other opinions, all right, well, we don't want to hear them, and we're going to threaten your career because we encourage the voices of others. Holy fuck. Like, are you fucking shitting me? Like, how can you be so fucking stupid that you're going to say this, that you're going to try and silence somebody else's opinion for not having the same opinion as you, and then you're going to go on to say that the other person's opinions, which run counter to yours, which you have tried to have his career destroyed over, that his opinions and his statements do not foster intellectual exploration, nor do they encourage the voices of others. How fucking hypocritical can you be? Like, this is the definition of hypocritical. Like, if you looked up hypocritical in the dictionary, here's fucking Tom Castastulias. And then one last thing that they snuck in here, folks. Right in the middle, it's one line. And if you're not paying attention, you'll completely gloss over it. But you really need to focus on this one, folks. You need to listen, all right? There's one line right in the middle of it all that says, a university spokesman said Wednesday that the school did not take disciplinary actions against Muir and that he is expected to return to his classes. Think about that. The spokesman said that the school did not take disciplinary actions. Do you understand what that means? That means that they considered taking disciplinary actions. That means that they chose not to take disciplinary actions, which means that there were those who wanted to take disciplinary actions. There were people who wanted disciplinary actions against a professor who on his personal Facebook page made an opinion against an organization who advocates for the murdering of police officers and the targeted killings and beatings of an entire ethnicity. He came out saying that they are a horrible organization, compared them to another horrible organization, and they chose not to take disciplinary actions. Like, good for fucking them, you know? Good on them to choose not to take disciplinary actions. Are you fucking kidding me? They chose not to take disciplinary actions, which means that in any other case, maybe they might have, right? What if he came out and said that Black Lives Matter needs to be listed on the terrorist watch list, which I agree with. That's my position. If you're advocating for the murders of innocent individuals, then you're a terrorist. So consider this. The definition of terrorism. U.S. Code 2331 definition. The term domestic terrorism means activities that involve acts dangerous to human life that are a violation of the criminal laws of the United States or of any state, and that which just appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping, and which occur primarily within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. So let's go line for line on this one, folks. All right. Domestic terrorism involve acts dangerous to human life that are a violation of the criminal laws of the United States. Do Black Lives Matter conduct, or are they involved in acts dangerous to human life? Yes, they are. They were responsible for Dallas, the murdering of police officers in Dallas, involves acts dangerous to human life. So we have them on film, beating people, shouting, they white, beat their ass. If you're white, don't come down here, because we're gonna fucking kill you. So, yes, on that. Appear to be intended. So notice the language here. Appear to be intended. That doesn't mean, do they actually intend? Do they openly intend? It's the appearance of the intention. So keep that in mind as we go through this. To intimidate or coerce a civilian population. If destroying private property, destroying cars, businesses, would you say that appears to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. 2, appear to be intended to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion? Would you say that, what do we want? Dead cops? When do we want it? Now? And pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon? Would you say that that appears to be intended to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion? If you say no, okay. Well, what about one of its spokespersons, Alicia Garza, who goes on to say, after all of this violence occurred, Black Lives Matter aims to end state-sanctioned violence once and for all. We are fighting, that's a good word, right? Because they are very violent, for the sanctity and dignity of all of us, and not just for black men. So to end state-sanctioned violence. So they're acknowledging the state on top of acknowledging that they're targeting police officers, right? So would you then say that they appear to be intended to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion? Absolutely. And lastly but not least, appear to be intended to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction? I mean, fuck. Do I have to go any further on that one? Assassination? They murdered police officers in the street of Dallas. They murdered police officers. I'll post up all the ones that I can find. I know that there's been tons of them. There's been tons of them. Ones and twos, but it's happening. It's happening all across America. So, and mind you, all that needs to be addressed here for it to be labeled as domestic terrorists is just one. They only need one. This isn't one of those things where like they have to match all the criteria. They just have to have one of these criteria to be considered a domestic terrorist. Well, guess what, folks? Black Lives Matter hits all three. Hits all of them, okay? So tell me what it is that Professor Douglas Muir did wrong by saying that this organization, which meets all the criteria for domestic terrorism per the U.S. Code definition, just simply saying that, quote, Black Lives Matter is the biggest racist organization since the Klan. Are you kidding me? Disgusting. What I think is disgusting, folks, is how the University of Virginia responded to this. Thank God that they chose not to pursue disciplinary actions against Professor Muir. Fucking ridiculous. So there you have it, folks. Undeniable proof that Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. Proof that if they can, social justice warriors will shame you into going against your own beliefs. And the best thing you could do is stick to your guns. When you are faced with a social justice warrior administration, I know that many people, including Ben Shapiro, tells you just to keep your head down and to just get through it, and don't make a big deal about it. You just say, yes, sir, 3 bags full, and you just move on. I say, fuck that. Okay, I say that you need to hold them accountable and you need to hold them to account for their statements, okay? If the administration wants to tell you that what you said was racist, you say, prove it. You say, prove it. And you use these examples and you back up what you've said, okay? And if you can't back up what you say, then don't say it, right? I figure that's pretty obvious, but maybe I need to mention that. But if you've seen it and you can back it up, then say it and stick to it, all right? Hold them accountable for their beliefs. Don't let them shame you out of your beliefs. So thanks for listening. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment. Donate to my Patreon, and I'll see you guys next time I have something to rant about. Cheers.